astrology predictions for the year 2022 for all the 12 ascendants. Hello everybody, I'm Tina Chaudhary. Welcome to my channel and a very warm namaste. So let's take a look at what are the planetary events that are going to happen in 2022 and give us some impact or the major impact. So the 2022 is promising to be a very exciting year for all of us, especially astrologers, because two of the major impactful planets, which is Jupiter and Saturn, both have very important transits in 2022. Now, both of these planets are the ones that gave us the major events in our life. Now, the other planets that are also going to have transits are the nodes. So Rahu, Ketu, which is not planets, but they're virtual planets, which is the nodes, North Node and South Node, are also going to have transits in this year. So let's talk about what happens first. So on April 12th, the nodes, which is Rahu and Ketu, North Node and South Node, are going to transit first. So the nodes always move in a retrograde or in a backward motion. So right now Rahu is in Taurus and Ketu is in Scorpio. So they're going to move one step back. So Rahu moves into Aries and Scorpio will move into Libra. So obviously these two signs, if you are one of these signs, which is Aries and Libra, these nodes are now going to move into your sign. We'll talk about the impact of these signs a little bit in my prediction now for the year, but when the transits start to occur or closer to the transit, I'll make a video and of course talk a little bit more about that. So these are one of the major transits. The next thing that's going to happen immediately the next day after, on April 13th, is that Jupiter is going to transit. It's right now it transited into Aquarius on sometime in November, and then on April 13th, Jupiter transits into its next sign, which is Pisces. Now Pisces is owned by Jupiter, so Jupiter moves into its own house. So now that's a very, very positive transit, and the reason being that, like I said, Pisces is owned by Jupiter. So when Pisces goes home, it's considered Pisces moves into Pisces. Jupiter moves into Pisces, it's considered as if it's going home. So it feels very good. So when a planet feels good or it goes into its own sign, it gives its most benefic results because it's a happy planet. Now Jupiter is one of the most benefic planets. So when it becomes happy, goes into its own sign, we can only expect good things from Jupiter. Jupiter's had a very short stay in Aquarius. It's moving so fast. It's almost like it's rushing to go home. The next thing that's going to happen on April 28th is that Saturn, who's been hanging out in Capricorn, owned by, Capricorn is its own sign. And then Saturn goes into Aquarius, which is also owned by Saturn, goes into Aquarius for a little bit. It peaks into Aquarius almost. It goes a little bit into Aquarius and then stays in there. It only stays in there till about June 4th, and then it starts its retrograde motion and then starts going back towards Capricorn again. And so on July 12th, it's back into a Capricorn. But the good thing is that Saturn likes being in Aquarius way better than it likes being in Capricorn. Why? Because Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac, and the 11th sign of the zodiac represents our wish fulfillment, desires, gains, networking, friends. So Aquarius gives us better things in Aquarius than it does in Capricorn. So a couple of factors we need to keep in mind is that when Saturn does a backward forward motion from Capricorn to Aquarius, that if the Sade, which I'll talk about in a minute, that for people that have the moon placement in Pisces, they're going to have a quick Sardasati and then back not having the Sardasati. So they may feel the effect of a Sardasati for the April to July period, and then the Sardasati comes off. So I'll talk about that. What is that in a minute? And then the other thing is that people that are having the dasha, antardasha or anything to do with Ketu during this time, after July, when Ketu is in Libra and Saturn has moved back to Capricorn, Saturn will have the 10th vision of Ketu. So it's going to be staring at Ketu the whole time. So you need to keep that in mind. Now, Ketu is a little bit of a challenged planet. It's headless. So it also is a very separative planet. So sometimes it gives challenging results in the house that it's sitting in. And now with the 10th aspect of Saturn, we could have some challenging results. So take a look at where Ketu is placed in your chart and also where Saturn is placed, so you know that if you're under the effect of Ketu or Saturn, there's going to be a mixed result between Saturn and Ketu. So those are the two challenging things that are going to happen. Now I need to talk about what is a Sade Sati. So Sade Sati is when, depending upon the placement of your moon in your chart, so when Saturn comes the house before or over your moon, or the house after your moon, where your moon is placed. Those are the 7.5 years. So Saturn is in a house for 2.5 years. So that would mean 2.5 years before where the moon is placed, 2.5 years over where the moon is placed, and then 2.5 years after the house after where the moon is placed. Our total 7.5 years. And so that's in Vedic astrology is called the Sade Sati. Sade means half and Sati means 7. So it's a 7.5 year cycle or phase that a person goes through. Now I'm going to move on to my predictions. The predictions are based on your ascendant, which is the first house, or the sign in your first house. Also, the actual results that a person gets are always based on their own birth chart. Before I move on, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. I'm getting so many viewers, but people are forgetting to subscribe. And this video is worth sharing with friends and family so they know what to expect. Leo, when the year starts, Jupiter is going to be in your 7th house, and it's going to look at your first house. The first house is your thinking. And you know what? While Jupiter is in the 7th house, it's going to give you very good energy, because when Jupiter looks at your first house, you feel good, your mind is positive, and you're feeling quite happy. And actually, Jupiter looking at the first house gives you very good energy and positive vibration. And so if there's anything that you want to do, you want to start business related matters, career related matters, it's better to do them before April. In April, Jupiter will move into your 8th house. Now the 8th house, a little bit of obstacles, a little bit of delays will start. So all of a sudden you're feeling really happy, and then Jupiter moves into the 8th house. Also at that time, Rahu and Ketu will have made their transit. So Rahu will go into your 9th house and Ketu will go into your 3rd house. Now, when Jupiter is in the 8th house, it's going to look at your 12th house, which is the 12th house relates to expenditures and expenses. So your expenses after April are going to be very high. One of the things that may happen almost for sure is when Rahu goes into the 9th house, it denotes foreign travel. So 9th house is long distance travel. Rahu is a foreigner, so long distance travel definitely after April sometime. One of the issues is going to be that Saturn, who's been hanging out in your 6th house, is also going to peek into your 7th house at that time from April through July. And when it does that and your expenses are high, one of the issues could be that in your marriage or at home, there may be some issues or disagreements regarding money and monetary issues. So you need to be aware of that. Make sure you control your expenses at that time. Otherwise, there could be disagreements between you and your partner regarding financial issues or any other matters. Now, if you own a business, it could also be a time that you need to watch your expenses at that time, because if you own a business, which is the 7th house, and your expenses are high, you need to really watch for your where you invest your money or how you invest your money. You're going to have to watch for the fact that Saturn moves back into your 6th house after July. So Saturn in your 6th house causes some loan issues, or taking out loans or paying loans. So make sure you're very careful about your money. This is Leo, it's going to be all about money, I think, after April. There's going to be issues related to that. It's not a very good income time. After April, there could be challenges with income and money and your investments. Think very, very wisely before you make any investments or you make any expensive purchases or spend your money. So for Leo people, one of the remedies that I'm going to suggest, because of the fact that you have two challenging situations, one Saturn in your 6th house and Rahu in your 9th house. For Rahu in the 9th house denotes Guru, Dharma, and also the divine, your religion. So Rahu in the 9th house tends to tell you that you don't need to follow anything, don't do anything, and it disturbs your meditation practice. It disturbs your belief in divinity. So that's what Rahu does. So try to maintain a very close relationship with the divinity or whoever your faith, that whoever you believe in, and try to do good meditation practice. Try to do, if you're a religious kind of person, try to say your prayers regularly to overcome the impact of Rahu being in your 9th house. For Saturn being in your 6th house, one of the remedies that you do is that you have a workout regimen. It doesn't have to be a very strenuous regimen. As long as you do something regularly every day, that's good enough. Otherwise, sometimes Saturn in the 6th house can also create some achy pains, joints, and stomach issues, so digestion issues. One of the other things is your 3rd house is getting activated with Ketu, so there may be some communication issues. This is one of the things that the Leo people have to watch, because both Jupiter and Saturn are looking at your 3rd house. The 3rd house denotes our communication with, especially with people at work, because Saturn is in the 6th house, with people at work, and our siblings, which is the 3rd house also. And actually, literally, and Jupiter being in the 8th house with your in-laws also. So basically, we covered everybody, right? So watch your communication very, very carefully. Don't say things that may upset other people. Don't say things at work that may upset other people, or you have to be very careful what you're saying and to whom you're saying to, because this is a time when relationships may actually break. Rahu and Ketu are in positions of 3 and 9, where I've seen sometimes where relationships will break sometimes. At work they can break, and with siblings or in-laws they can break too. So be very, very careful of what you're saying, how you're saying it. So watch what you're saying, watch your communication, and if there's anything important you need to do it before April. Virgo, when the year starts out, Jupiter is in a very challenged position, which is the 6th house. And so you probably noticed for a while that your career was not going anywhere, and there was lots of obstacles and delays, and really your income probably was a little challenged as well. Then in April, Jupiter moves into the 7th house and everything changes. Because once it's in the 7th house, it's going to do a very favorable look at your 11th house. The 11th house is the house of gains, network, socialization, and wish fulfillment, and older siblings also. So now will be a time after April when things shift in your career, or also in your gains as well. They will shift in a favorable situation. Reach into your network at that time and ask for whatever it is that you want to ask. Reach into your social circle and you'll get a lot of benefits from them. You may also notice that your social circle, your friends, expand at that time. You may start having a better time in your relationships with your network, with your friends, like I said. Also, if you have older siblings, it might be a good time to reconnect with them at that time. The 11th house is a very positive house. So when Jupiter looks at that house, it can only give you very good benefic results. Also, Jupiter starts looking at your own house, your ascendant house. When Jupiter does that, it gives you very good energy. It gives you very positive energy, and it changes your mind from being a little negative to become very positive. So that's one of the good things that happens in April as well. The third aspect of Jupiter is going to be where it looks, the 9th aspect, which is the 3rd house. The 3rd house signifies short distance travels. It also, the main signification of the 3rd house is a self-effort, very hard work, and discipline. But the good thing is that if you do the self-effort, if you put in the hard work, it will give you good gains and good results, and good return on your hard work, because both the 3rd and the 11th house is being impacted by Jupiter. So this is actually a very good position for Jupiter to be in, and this is going to happen after April. So take full advantage of it after April. Do the hard work, put your self-effort, and see the gains coming in. It's a good time for you after April. All of a sudden things will change. If you've been struggling with relationship with children, or you haven't had a really good time in your love life up to now, and because Saturn's been in your 5th house, and the 5th house denotes children, love life, having fun. Between April and July, Saturn moves into your 6th house, which is still a challenging position for Saturn to be in, but at the same time, it's going to get you some relief from these troubling times that you may have had with children or love life. So it's going to give you a little bit of relief from there. And so enjoy that time with, and with Jupiter's transit, I'm sure that will give you some relief in those areas as well, with relationships, love life, children, and education related matters as well. Now, the problem is going to be that Rahu and Ketu, there's always some catch, right? So Rahu is going to move into, after April, it's going to move into your 8th house, and Ketu is going to be in your 2nd house. Now, when Rahu goes into your 8th house, it gives sudden events. Rahu is already the significator of something sudden, something all of a sudden happening, something that you didn't expect to happen. And the 8th house is also sudden transformation, something happening very suddenly. So there's chances of something happening very suddenly with your health, or with, you know, your mind being very suspicious, fearful. It's going to make you like that. Even though Jupiter is going to give you that positive vibe, Rahu is going to make you suspicious, fearful, and give you a lot of anxiety in the 8th house. You need to learn to kind of get over that and think through that and work through that yourself. Now, what is the remedy for that? I think the 8th house Rahu remedy is that you can do some mantra practice and some meditation. The 8th house is a very good house for mantra practice and meditation. So do that if you can, to kind of get over this impact of Rahu in the 8th house. Now, Ketu being in the 2nd house, what it does is, Ketu is a planet that's very uninterested in everything except itself and being spiritual. Ketu signifies spiritual growth. So when it goes into the 2nd house, and the 2nd house signifies family life, income, money, food, you're going to be very uninterested in everything. You're going to lose interest in money. Even though you're going to have good gains, you're not going to be interested in them. You're going to be like, okay, so I have them, I don't really care anymore. So that's what Ketu is going to do to your mind. It's going to be like not caring enough about materialism. And actually it's a good thing that Ketu is going to get you there, because even though you're going to be getting everything from your 11th house, from Jupiter, Ketu is not going to make you care too much or worry too much about it. So that's one of the things that Ketu does in the 2nd house is it makes you a little picky about the food you eat. So Ketu likes to eat very pure food. It likes to eat very clean food. So that's what Ketu is going to make you want to do, is in the 2nd house, is it's going to make you want to eat pure, clean food. And some of the people I've seen with Ketu in 2nd house is that or where Ketu significantly impacts our food, is they become vegetarians if they're not. So that's what the impact of Ketu is. Ketu is a very spiritual planet, so it doesn't like all these material and all these lavish things. So you're going to lose interest in a lot of these things. It's a good placement for Ketu, because, you know, it kind of doesn't get you trapped in the world of luxuries and money and materialism. So if that's what you're looking for at this time in your life, then, you know, spiritual practice, mantra practice, it's a great time for that. Libra, when the year starts, Jupiter is in your 5th house, and then it goes into the 6th house in April. Now, the 6th house, Jupiter, is going to have a couple of very good aspects to it, which is, first, it looks at the house of career, which is the 10th house. So things that are stuck in your career, have been stuck for a while, you may see movement in your career, good things coming to you from your career. Also, one of the houses it's going to look at is your 2nd house, which is the house of income and family. So, you know, if you were having some family issues, or if you were, you know, they seem to get solved, and you might see better results now. Also, the 2nd house denotes your income, so you might see a spike in income. You might see better income and better money issues, better money, I should say, better income and better wealth after April, when Jupiter looks at your 2nd house. So that's something, you know, those are some of the good things that you can expect to happen in April, after April. The other part that other house that Jupiter is going to look at is your 12th house. Now, the 12th house is the house of expense and investments. So you're definitely going to be also inclined to spend a lot of money on luxuries. And one of the things that you could end up spending money on is real estate matters or expenses within the home, because guess who's sitting there? It's Saturn. So Saturn has been in your 4th house, and it denotes your mental health, domestic bliss, and generally happiness at home. So you could actually end up spending money within the home, you know, things to do in the home, or they actually might even be real estate matters, or you actually might have some relocation. There's not a very high probability chance of the Libras relocating, but some of you might have relocation, few of you. But some of the other ascendants have a larger chance of getting relocation, but not Libra as much. Libras will probably end up spending money in the home after April. So you have to be very careful about that if you don't want to spend it. Now, as far as Saturn is concerned, it's going to be in the fourth house, messing up your, domestic happiness for a long time. It's been there. It's going to go into the fifth house for a short time between April and July, where you might be a little relieved. But what's going to happen is you might be happy with your partner, but you might start having a little issues with your children, because the fifth house denotes your children. So you might start having a little bit of a disconnect with the children and love life if you are in a love relationship, and then it goes back into the fourth house. So again, the expenses might be due to expenses within the home. Also, because Jupiter is hanging out in the sixth house, the expenses might also be due to health issues. You could end up spending money on some health related matters as well. So one of the things that the Libra people have to do is take good care of their health this year. Make sure you have a good physical exercise regimen to make sure that none of these issues are going to bother them. Their health is not going to bother them this year. There's not much of a chance, but just to be sure, I think that it might not be a bad idea for the Libra people to take good care of their health. One of the most challenging things that the Libra people will have is the fact that Ketu moves into their ascendant house and Rahu moves into their seventh house. Again, a very karmic pattern, as every time Rahu, Ketu, the nodes move into the four houses, the 1, 4, 7, 10 axis houses, these are karmic changes that take place in your life. So when Ketu moves into your ascendant house, it kind of challenges your thinking, because Ketu is headless. Ketu, the planet, denotes a headless planet. So it now in your ascendant lord, which denotes your head. It kind of challenges you on how to think through things. You kind of lose your mind, and you can't think and you can't focus on things correctly, and you don't think through things clearly. Now, I'm not saying that to be mean, but that's just the impact that Ketu has. Is it doesn't give you the ability to think through things clearly. It doesn't give you the ability to focus well. So the one thing that you should not do, because the second house is being impacted, is make financial decisions. After April, you should completely refrain from making big financial decisions, investment decisions. You should not make unless you have somebody that's very capable guiding you through that. If you're going to make them on your own, there's a very good chance that you regret those decisions later, because it's Ketu clouding your ability to think clearly through these very detailed matters like finance and wealth related investment matters. Because your 12th house is also being impacted and your expenses are being impacted, you may want to start investing. You will have the urge to, let me go invest here, let me go invest there. But they're all going to be things that Ketu is not going to let you think clearly through them. So make sure you're very clear and get the help of somebody to help you decide these. The other issue is that the Rahu is now in your 7th house. And the 7th house denotes your spouse, your marriage partner, your business partner. If you have a business partner, there's going to be some friction maybe with them, because that's what Rahu does. It kind of tends to make things bigger than they are, or tends to make you see things not how they really are, but through like a smoke screen. So Rahu always tends to make you look at things not how they really are, but how you really want them to be. So, and the same thing applies to your marriage partner. So Rahu is going to make you get into these little arguments with your marriage partner and your business partner. You need to be very careful about these things. The fact that the Rahu Ketu is now in your 1-7 axis is going to be karmic, and like I said before, and you really need to take this very seriously, where you need to be very, very aware of how you handle your money, your investment, your own self, your ascendant, your own thinking, and how you deal with your marriage partner and your business partner, especially related to money, because your second house is being activated. The second house also denotes your communication, your talking. And I think I've been saying this for a long time to my Libra people. Watch what you're saying, how you're saying it to, because now is a time when Rahu Ketu come into that axis, the ability to break relationships is much more greatly increased than it was ever before. So what you're saying to people and how you're saying to your close people, your relatives, especially your marital relationships, the ability to break is now very high because of, like I said, these karmic planets have come in there. And so the karmic planets transform your life in some way. That's why they come into these positions. So they're very transformative in nature. Don't take these people for granted. Don't just tell people off. Resist the urge to do that. Ketu and Rahu will make you do that. So you have to become very watchful to not fall into that trap. So make sure you don't do that. Nurture these relationships instead of like telling people off. Otherwise, it's a good time for Libra as far as their career is concerned, as far as their income is concerned. I have 2 cautions: watch your expenses and don't disturb the key relationships in your life. Scorpio. Scorpio, when the year starts, Jupiter is in your 4th house. And when it was in the 4th house since November, you were probably seeing a lot of domestic happiness, because the 4th house represents your mental happiness and your domestic happiness. So you've probably seen an increase in, general happiness within you, and happiness at home. And also the 4th house looks at your house of career. So you're probably very satisfied with the way your career was going and enjoying. Generally, it's a place of happiness, general happiness. Then in April, Jupiter will move to your 5th house. And Jupiter likes being in the 5th house. So it's a very pleasant house for Jupiter to be in. It gives very benefic results in the 5th house as well. In the 5th house, it's going to look at the 9th house, which it activates your luck house. So 9th is the house of luck. So it activates your luck house. It's also going to look at the 11th house and your house, the ascendant house. So the house of the 11th house is one of the favorite houses of my personal house and a lot of astrologers, because it's the house of gains, rewards, recognitions, wish fulfillment, desire fulfillment, and also your network, professional network, as well as close friends. So it's once it goes in there in after April, it's a lot of desire fulfillment, wishes that you were looking for, fulfillment. As far as income is concerned, it definitely represents good income. So it's a good placement for Jupiter. And like I said, it activates your luck. So the luck relates to your income, getting rewards and recognition as well. Now, it also looks at your 1st house, which is your ascendant and your body. So it definitely helps in healing. If you had any health issues, then it helps in healing. When Jupiter looks at your 1st house, it gives you very good energy, a burst of energy, and a feeling of positivity. Now, the problem's going to be at the same time that Saturn's going to move into your 4th house at the exact same time in April. So when Saturn moves into the 4th house, instead of, like I mentioned, the 4th house is your domestic bliss and so on, and stuff like that. So at the same time, when Saturn moves into the 4th house, it's going to cut a lot of the luck out. It's also going to give you stress, and Saturn is the #1 stress giver. So instead of all this happiness that you're going to get from your rewards and recognition, it's going to give you some mental stress. It's also going to give you some stress at home, where you're gonna, you might be getting all these rewards, but there may be some bickering going on at home, and you may be stressed about something. So that's a very short time. It's only from April through July. So that, just be aware of it. It's not a long transit, but it's definitely going to, because I'm telling you it's a lucky time, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, this is not really lucky. So it's going to be there for a short time. So after July, things start to, get better again, where Jupiter will start giving its full benefits. Now, the problem is Saturn's going to move back into the 3rd house, and your energy may start to feel depleted again. The 3rd house represents your energy, so it's going to start depleting again. And Jupiter is looking at your 1st house, so, it's giving you energy, yet it's taking it away. So you need to kind of manage that yourself a little bit. The other thing is that Rahu, the North node, is going to be in your 6th house, and the South node is going to be in your 12th house. Now, Rahu in the 6th house is actually the best place for the North node to be in, because it's so obsessive compulsive, and it goes after something so bad that if you're going to be in any competition, if you have rivals, if you have things like that, Rahu never loses. Rahu never loses a battle or a competition. So if you're going to do anything where you have competition or rivals, Rahu will win. If you have anything that you have loans, or if you have any debts of any kind, Rahu will get rid of them. Also, if you have any health issues, Rahu will take care of them, because it always finds a way to win against all odds. So you have a lot of positive things going on. So the little negative that you do have from Saturn will, be negated by all these good placements of all the other planets. The only period that I suggest you be very careful about is the April to July period. Otherwise, it's a very good year for you. The whole year you're going to have very good energy because Jupiter looking at your first house, it's a positive vibration. One of the things that I have to just kind of I guess counsel you about is your communication. The communication when Rahu is in your sixth house is very combative. You kind of tell people off, you just tell them where to go, and it's a very combative position for Rahu to be in. So you need to watch for that. You don't tell people off, because that's the time when you could actually lose out on all the good luck, because you're telling your superiors off, you're telling your coworkers off, you're telling people at home off. So watch your communication all the time. The one thing that I'm going to say is the fact that Jupiter is looking at the ninth house is very good for your father, for your father's health. Also, it's very good for education purpose. So if you're in education, you're part of education, you're a student, you're learning something, awesome time, because Jupiter looking at the ninth house is great for learning new skills. And with that, I come to the end of my video. See you later. Stay very safe, and goodbye for now.